I shouldn't say tidal wave, I should say tsunami. The tsunami is going to crawl up on the land and push down the tectonic plates. There's going to be nothing supporting them because all the tectonic plates will be unlocked, you see. And so you're going to get a terraforming of this planet. And so being in you better plan on being in that submarine for quite a while because there's going to be multiple events. That's why I'm saying if you live in northern Europe, you need to get away because there's a giant caldera under the entire northern half of Europe. That when that thing blows, then it's going to be similar to whenever Yellowstone blows. You don't want to be anywhere near when they outgas. The safe zone for Europe is actually in Spain. The 2,000-foot plateau there on the Pyrenees side. You want to be in a cavern on the Spain side, and we have survival groups over there. And we even have people from Europe that are coming to the Ozarks. People from all over the world are coming to the Ozarks because it is a very safe place to be.
Well, in other words, you're basically talking about the end of the world here.
Well, actually, the day of the Lord is about to start. This is how the day of the Lord begins. Remember, it comes as a thief in the night, and it has not started yet, and it's 1,000 years, day of the Lord, 2 Peter 3:8. And so we're still more than 1,000 years from the end of the age. I'm not. Some people think I'm predicting the end of the world, but I'm not. And Paul even talks about the ages to come in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 7. So I'm not predicting the end of the world by a long shot, but I do think the world's going to be terraformed by water and by fire. And then Elijah's going to show up, and he's going to start the restoration of all things. And then everything in prophecy is going to be fulfilled. And then at the end of the age, this thing comes again. And the proximity report is going to be dire. And the world's going to be split in two at the end of the age. But so the day of the Lord will be from the time this thing coming until it comes again, in my view.
In other words, everything's going to get wiped out here pretty soon, and then just by the time maybe we get it all going again, then it'll really be bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think I'll just go get a beer. No, I'm not. No, it's time to let's open the telephone. Let's see if we get some questions coming in here. Joe, have we got anybody on the line? Does anybody? Am I the only one that's trying to think up questions? Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll find out what the questions are, and our guest Terral will try to provide some answers right after this. Howdy, this is your sometimes itinerant alternate host here on Epic Voyagers. Tonight we've been talking with Terral Croft about his ideas and his research onto a heavy mass object. And we've got some callers. Let's go first to area code 214. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I got a question, but first I wanted to say something about this article I read today. It was called The Unusual Minor Planet, and it's called 2011 YU-75. Have y'all heard of that?
YU-75?
Yeah, they just discovered it. I'll read you the first paragraph of this and see what you think. It says, this unusual minor planet was discovered by Spacewalk Sky Survey on December 26, 2011. It's moving along very eccentric orbit. Its perihelium is close to Mars. Aphelium is near 3 AU away from Saturn. Currently, it's about 1 AU from Earth and 2 AUs from the Sun. It's approaching its perihelium, scheduled for the end of April 2012. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't, and those numbers do not sound like they could be accurate, but I'd have to do more research on that to be able to tell you more.
We give a track for they call it a minor planet. And being a minor planet, I think Pluto was just downgraded as a minor planet. And if it's that close to us, it could be causing a lot of these weather patterns we're having. Wouldn't you think?
It's much too... No, sir. I think it's much too small. If it's a Kuiper Belt object, then they're generally made out of ethane, like methane, ethane. They're ice, things like that.
They don't have enough mass to affect the sun, for instance, or the major planets such as what we've been seeing. But it is interesting. And, Terral, you going to look into that?
YU-75, right?
YU-75.
Right.
In February the 17th of 2012, they got the first picture of it from the Focke telescope, I guess, in Australia. And this article has got a picture of it down at the bottom of the article.
Okay, I heard mention of, and I won't take too long, about Pluto being downgraded, but it was downgraded for a good reason because they're finding a lot of Kuiper Belt objects. And if you find one that's the same size as Pluto, then it should be a planet too, right? What happens when you find 100 of them? Then
I don't
you don't
know.
have 100 planets, so you have to downgrade to dwarf planets because you're going to find a lot more of them in the Kuiper Belt. It's very big. Go ahead.
The Kuiper Belt is a bunch of asteroids that's out at the outer fringes of our solar system, and some of those are about as big as as big as Pluto.
So wouldn't you figure 1AU was kind of close though?
Yes,
doesn't seem like
a minor planet.
Does not seem like it should be in here, and if it is that close, it's coming in for an orbit around the sun. It can't just fall that far, go back.
They do mention it's taking a comet. They do mention it's taking a comet path, and they're waiting for it to get the coma or a tail as it gets closer.
Right,
So,
and we might actually see a tail rather than like Elenin, where it never had a tail because it was not a comet.
Right.
And when it gets close to the sun, you can bet it's going to be going hundreds of thousands or even a million miles an hour if it is really a Kuiper Belt object. Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's basically my only question.
Okay. Well, thanks a bunch. And Terral, since he mentioned Elenin and you mentioned Elenin, there was kind of a big hoorah about that, and then it just seemed to kind of fizzle. In fact, actually, it almost seemed like it broke up or something. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think happened to Elenin?
Giant psyop. There was nothing to break up. See, if the Elenin would have broken up when they said they would have stopped tracking it, or they were tracking the major part that broke off, and they didn't. They continued on to track the same coordinates as was predicted by the supercomputer. So if it would have truly broken up and they truly observed that, and that was truly part of the report, then they would have the orbit diagram, everything would have changed, and it just didn't. So
it didn't.
The Jet Propulsion Laboratory, NASA kept tracking it as if it did not break up.
So where's Elenin now? Is it just moving on out of the solar system?
Well, it's a psyop. It's not anything. This is
there wasn't anything there. Okay.
No, the orbit diagram contains our data to track this object 1 year later. So they've this is a lettered agency psyop in unison with Jet Propulsion Laboratory and NASA. That's what it appears to be right now. The object is definitely not a comet. Definitely not a comet. It's moving way too slow. Remember, it's only 32,000 miles per hour at 8 to 7 AU, and it was only 62,500 miles an hour, 2 to 1 AU. Could not be a comet. Way, way, way too slow.
Could that be a little program to cry wolf so that when something really comes up, most people won't pay attention to it?
That's right. That's to discredit investigations like mine and Mr. Amar Bosich that wrote that paper to Cornell, April 11th, 2011. Okay. So anybody paying attention and warning people is going to be discredited by it.
Right. Okay, let's go to caller in area code 239. You're on here with... hello.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Good, 239. What's your question?
I just had a question. Do you think your March 22nd date goes along with the new Webbot from Cliff High about March?
His is March the 8th, I believe.
Yeah, I just read there's I think 3 of them that March the mainstream media is gonna tell us something that we've I never heard. So I just thought maybe that has something to do with the heavy mass object. If it isn't, if it's like a ship or something, I don't know. I was just asking.
Well, there are a lot of other people saying this is a ship. They're saying it's being controlled. I don't think that that Cliff High's work is the same as mine. March is a focal point. There's a lot of things happening. See, on the same time, at the equinox this year, we have a lot of planetary alignments happening at the same time. So even if there wasn't a heavy mass object, we're still looking at an event that's coming by. The fact that this heavy mass object just happens to come by, this 188 days on the 188-day cycle, we're expecting a big event. It seems just like too much of a coincidence to me. And I think that a lot of people, like Cliff High, he's putting he's connecting the dots, and around the equinox this year is whenever a lot of things are going to transpire, in my opinion.
Okay. And just one more question for you. Do you think that the sun's going to go into a red giant phase?
Do I think it's going to go into a red giant phase? If it was to, it's going to do it. It's not going to be something that's going to happen tomorrow or anything like that. This heavy mass object is the thing that has our attention, because this thing is it looks like it's going to change the Earth in the next year or so. If any kind of change the sun would have like that, then it's going to go over a longer period of time. Okay, I think 814 was next.
Hi. Right now, I have a question. I have a couple of questions for Terral. How soon will the heavy mass object be visible in the sky to the unaided eye? And also, once lockdown happens, will food and supplies still be moving back and forth at all, or not, to different stores, so on and so forth?
Okay, when it's going to be visible has to do with when it gets in proximity to the sun. That's going to happen later in September. I wouldn't look to be able to see this thing with the naked eye until sometime in October or September. And as far as food availability, you should expect that's going to be regional. It's not going to be this one answer for everybody. And you want to get out of the big cities, and you want to get into a rural area where you can have access to your own food and grow your own food and have your own water.
The other thing I wanted to ask, how safe will small towns be where you have like very decent people who are like very Christian, so on and so forth, and also being about 250 miles inland at like 900 feet? I have been listening to John Moore, and he said that the minimum is like 400 feet, but you had to be like 250 miles inland, whatever. Most people have half a tank of gas in their car, and the refugees coming, that'll be like 150 miles on half a tank of gas, and so it'd be better to be like further away from the coast. And also where I'm at is around 900 feet above sea level. It's a small town, very Christian people, and there's almost no crime around here at all, period. And so would you say that also the area that I'm in, according to, I can't recall the other expert's name, but he said the area where I'm living in is going to be like pretty safe, actually.
It sounds like you're talking about the eastern United States. Would that be right?
Right, and also like 250 miles inland, right.
Yeah, but what if you're in near proximity to a nuclear power plant? It sounds like you're going to be downwind of at least a dozen of them.
The nearest ones would be 100 miles away or more.
That's nothing. So the problem, you need to be, in the worst case scenario, remember, you need to be west of the Mississippi River, because you've got way too many nuclear power plants. There's 9 at the head of the New Madrid fault. Only 1 needs to melt down, and all that bad air is going right up to the northeast. If you live in the northeast, you're downwind of about 25 nuclear power plants. You only need 1 to melt down. And and
also being like 250 miles away from the coast, would not make it any safer.
You need to be upwind of a nuclear power plant. So that's why I'm recommending the Ozarks. In Arkansas, we have 2 nuclear power plants, but there are $3 billion underground facilities here that the billionaires have built, and we are counting on the fact that they're going to shut those down in time and then restart them up after the event. So that's going to be the source of our power, too. That's the reason we came here.
And also, I have been buying food and supplies and also stocking up and stuff here ever since I first found out about this whole situation that's coming up here in the future. And I also heard a report that the Tiktok Mountains in eastern Quebec are also going to be the safest place in Canada, possibly in the entire North American continent. And then here are the Ozarks, and then the area that I'm in is supposed to be fairly safe, basically.
In Quebec, you're downwind of too many nuclear power plants.
Even if a person up high in the mountains, basically.
No,
Tiktok Mountains.
It's just not high enough over there. Whenever you're talking about pole shifts, then you're talking about the ocean that crawling up on the eastern shores, and there's not enough elevation in New York. It's only about 400 feet elevation there. The water's going to go right over to Lake Erie.
Now, 250 miles inland, the ocean, that won't be any problem at all, if I'm correct.
But 250 miles on average, you have to have elevation. If you're in a funnel area, that could extend to 500 miles. But you can't just use 250 miles, and you have to use a threat assessment report. It's extensive. You have a lot of variables to look at. It's not that simple. So there's a lot of variables. You need to be in the central part of the United States. Remember, Well, whenever the New Madrid unlocks, then you have another fault system to the eastern that runs north along the eastern ridge. It branches over through North Carolina and then up through the New England. So whenever that New Madrid goes, then you're going to have an unlocking of that eastern fault system, and then you're going to have a series of massive earthquakes because that area's been locked for so long, and there's ladder. It's like pushing your fists together, but at an angle. And hold them real tight. Whenever it slides, it's going to slide a long ways, and those nuclear power plants are going to start melting down. You need to be west of the Mississippi River in the worst-case scenario, and you need to be far enough south to avoid the exploding caldera that's out west. Because whenever that blows, the last time that caldera blew, it killed animals all around the planet because of the consistency
Ozarks,
of that.
if I'm correct, the Ozarks are actually closer to that caldera, the one at Yellowstone, as compared to the location where I'm at. Actually, I'm actually further away from the caldera at Yellowstone. That'd be safer in that respect. But then on the other hand, as you mentioned, 500 miles inland is better than 250 miles inland in terms of the ocean problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's move on to the next caller.
616, you're on the air.
Hi, Jim, Terral. Hey, thanks
Howdy.
for hosting such a great show, and it's so informative to help us be more aware and to try to help wake up other people that are sleeping. My question is, as we cross the object's orbit in May, was it?
88.
Will we pass through a debris trail that this object may be dragging behind it?
No, we're going to pass in front of it. It appears from the reports right now that we're looking at a September perihelion event. So we're going to pass May 8th. This thing is still going to be at a distance. If that's true, then this thing is it's between 2 and 3 AU away right now, coming underneath the asteroid belt. We're going to pass in front of it. We're going to reach outside orbit position around June the 24th. So we're going to swing wide in orbit, and then it's going to come in behind us, and then we're going to start getting closer and closer to it as it's coming between us and the sun in September. There won't be any debris field. Remember, this is not a comet or anything like that. Then it's going to cross Earth orbit around October the 28th. At least that's the Earth position. Whenever the Earth is that's whenever we are in orbit, whenever this thing crosses. Okay, so it's going to be in the fall that it's going to have a chance. We're going to cross its orbit path, and there's a chance if there's an asteroid field that's associated with this, there's a chance that we could have a problem then. But whenever you start drawing the orbit diagrams for these things, and you look where everything crosses each other, you have about 2 opportunities to be hit. And the chances of us being hit by anything associated with this thing is actually very small. The big thing that's going to happen is the magnetic effect. We could be flipped around, pole shifts and things like that, and the gravitational effect on the alignments. That's our biggest consideration. And, of course, the heating of the core because of proximity. As it gets closer to our Earth, our core is going to keep getting hotter and hotter because of that shortening magnetic portal connection. So it's an umbilical cord that runs between the 2 bodies, and as it gets shorter, then a higher number of the internal conduits become active. So you get a fully active magnetic portal whenever you're right next to it, and when it's far away, then you have the minimum number. So as it's getting closer to us, that's why the Earth core is getting hotter and hotter. So you have those combination of effects that are major, but the impact, I think, is the chances are very, very small of us being hit by anything that the atmosphere cannot protect us from. Open mic.
Do I have time for one more question? Okay, if the event happens as we're expecting to on March 22nd, can you foresee mass hysteria developing concerning the event, like alarm bells going off? And do you think that lockdown prior to this could already be planned?
I don't think so. This is going to be a lot like Fukushima. We're going to wake up. We're going to hear the big event happened. The Earth axis shifted and everything. We'll probably hear about that 2 days later. They're going to control the information that comes out. And people like myself will be discredited for one reason or another. They'll come out and attack us, and for whatever reason, and in order to extend what's going to happen, they're going to use their Oracle supercomputer to predict what's going to happen. That's what they're trying to do now, but they have limited input data. But after the event, they're going to be able to tell pretty fast what is going to happen. And I think that we're not looking at lockdown. I don't believe we're looking at lockdown until later. Maybe in the summer. Some of our experts are saying that it's going to happen at the end of April, but I can't see that happening at that time. But we will have more input data between the event and April to be able to tell more what's going to happen.
Okay, thanks, Terral, Jim. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So in other words, just keep your eyes and ears open.
Right. Keep your finger on the pulse, what's happening, and don't be caught asleep. You want to be awake whenever these things are happening, or you're going to get caught. 253. Yeah.
Hey, Terral, this is Masabi. I had a question from, I followed you since last year, and some of the same type of events you were talking about last year and having people get ready and wait at the Ozarks in August. And I'm wondering what's different about this time. I followed you and watched your YouTube videos and things, and you were talking about a perihelion event coming in August of last year. And I'm wondering...
September.
Yeah, you were saying to have everything ready by August. And if anything happened in one of the planetary planets, that it would show signs that something was coming in.
That's right.
So what's different about that this year?
Elenin was a PSYOP. Elenin was in the same field of view with the heavy mass object. So whenever our people looked and they could see what they were describing as Elenin, they were seeing orbitals. I thought Elenin was one of the orbitals, actually. And I thought that it was a miscommunication, and it was my fault. I had to go on the radio and explain that I was wrong and that the 188-day cycle is still going. But whenever the astronomers that was giving me information, when they looked at the area of space that I gave them the coordinates, they saw the disturbed area. This is the heavy mass object. It's the same thing that's caused the pattern of seismicity since 1965. I'm tracking the same object. It's just it looked like it was Elenin. And so, yes, the warnings went out. And what's different this time is that the object is still out there. The 188-day cycle is still going. The magnetic pole migration is increasing. Now they're seeing other planets, Venus, baffled. I mean, the scientists are baffled because it's slowing down its rotation. Why is that happening? Why is Jupiter's core melting? Why is Saturn got an extra ring? And what caused the superstorm when it passed in front of... See, we got all these symptoms, and it just means that the thing is getting closer now. And on March 22nd, if the Earth axis shifts 5 inches, then you're looking at the person that predicted it, because nobody's ever done that before. So, I mean, that's about all I can tell you. To run your own investigation and identify your threats, create your contingencies, and execute on time, just like everybody else.
Well, I have one other question. So for everybody who got ready last year and sold everything and were waiting till they get a free trip to the Ozarks?
So I don't know anybody that's done that. But you have to run. You have to be responsible for your own. Be responsible for your own investigation. Everybody that's listening to the show, you have to run. You have to run your own investigation. So maybe you can benefit from what I'm giving you, or maybe you can't. But everybody's in the same boat. And like I said,
I applaud you for doing something, and I truly believe in getting ready for something, and I don't discount that. Just a lot of people got ready last year on your timeline.
Right. The Elenin PSYOP is ruining a lot of people, and people aren't going to be ready this time because of it. But I can't help that. I just can continue the investigation and track the effects and give people the reports as it comes in. And then you still have to run your own investigation. You have to do your own contingency planning and execute whenever you feel that you should. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I think that actually kind of gets to the crux of the situation here. I think everyone has to think on their own and do their own study, do their own research, pay attention to everything, take all the input, but then it's going to be up to each individual to decide, what they're going to buy into, what they're going to do, what their action is going to be. And I think, Terral, you'll agree with me on that, right?
Absolutely. Maybe you can benefit from what we're sharing with you tonight, and maybe you can't. But I'm looking at a story right here. The Inuit people, the Indians, that they watch the sun and the moon every year. They're saying that the sun and the moon is in the wrong place, that the stars are in the wrong place. Seeing those kind of reports a lot. And now Venus is affected, all these other planets, like I keep saying. There's something happening here. It is happening. And like I said earlier, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do. And you guys can do whatever you think's best.
All right. On that note, I want to thank you, Terral, for being here tonight, bringing all this up. Certainly something to think about. In fact, forewarned is forearmed. So I really appreciate the input, and I think everybody listening does to one degree or another. And I thank you for being here on Epic Voyagers. And we're all Epic Voyagers, voyaging along on this great experiment and this thing. And we wish you the best of luck up there in the Ozarks, living off of, what'd you say, chickpeas? No, I think it was chicken and peas, right? Chicken and peas. And we'll have more in the next bright and brilliant edition of Epic Voyagers. Right here. This is your itinerant and sometimes host, Jim Mars, saying adios, and let's pray for a better, kinder tomorrow.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Please join us again next Monday evening for Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council's Epic Voyages. I'm Roger Peacock for Epic. Until next time.